So today we're in the garage because it's a typical South Wales spring day. It's pouring with rain, so the other cars are getting wet outside. So there we go. So the first step is loosen the wheel nuts. This bar used to be straight. It's had many years of abuse, but actually it's quite handy having it curved like this because you can actually angle it outwards a little bit and then stand on the end. You just get it to the angle you want. This is a 19mm socket, so we'll loosen these up and then we'll jack the back of the car up. Right, I'm using a trolley jack. I don't know if you can see in there, but I like to jack my cars up not using the jacking points. I use something solid on the suspension. I'm going to switch to an axle stand eventually anyway, so for now I'm just going to jack it up under the lower shock mount there. We'll just take it easy. One thing about trolley jacks, buy one. I used scissor jacks for years because I didn't have any money, and when I bought the trolley jack I realised I should have just bought the right thing in the first place. It saves so much time. So, you know, usual thing, buy something decent and just buy it once. This thing's had a hard life, it's still going, worth every penny spent. A bit like when I bought a welder, I realised straight away I should have bought one. You know, just a basic MIG welder. I should have bought one 10 years earlier. So sometimes it's false economy. You should just get on and do it. Personally, when using axle stands, I tend to put it under this bit here. It's a good solid part of the chassis, and it makes a sort of V-shaped structure over the top of the axle stand. So just personally, that's what I prefer to use. So taking out the 4 wheel bolts, the wheel's just resting on the axle end here, so we'll just take it off, lift it off. There we are. Some people put it under the car, so if your jack fails and your axle stand fails, you don't get crushed to death. Maybe I'll do that. Let's do that. Here's another tip. If you're working on wet driveways or concrete floors, what you can do is use a bit of this stuff. It's some kind of underfloor laminate flooring insulation, but actually if you're sitting on it or kneeling on it, there's another piece there, different type, makes life, or lying under the car, makes life so much nicer, and it's practically free. Only thing is, it's very flammable, so if you're grinding or anything, don't use it. This torsion arm has gone down, but then it meets its stop, which is here, so the wheel can't go down any further. So the next thing is we'll take this drum off. We're going to replace this drum because new ones are actually not that expensive, and this one's pretty borderline. It's all flaky, the edges all raggedy in places. I've already taken the cotter pin out of here, which is very important, and we'll take this off now with the special tool like I showed you the other day. I'm using 2 of the wheel bolts to fit this magic tool that's used to undo this castle nut that's done up to some massive amount of torque. Again, proper tool for the job. These are not that cheap, but they're just about the only way to undo this without basically injuring yourself or damaging the car. So we do these up tight. Then this bit fits on here, and this engages with this. You put a socket on there and turn it, and you get this massive amplification of the torque just to crack it, just to get it going. Here's another tip. These lights, they're designed for use in the winter in places like Sweden where you feel all depressed. I think they're called mood lights or something. They make a fantastic inspection lamp. And you can buy them really cheap in the summer, because in the summer nobody wants to buy them. So if you ever see one of these knocking around, they're really bright and they're quite slim, so you can lie them flat under the car, and they seem to me they're just miles better than messing around with an inspection lamp. So that's what I use that for, and they're good for filming because they give a kind of daylight kind of light. There it goes. Take it nice and slow. And then we move it back up to there. Like that. And we keep going. There we are. Right, once you've loosened it, you can actually turn it around the other way. Use it as a handle like that to just get it off, which is quite neat. Right, I've loosened off the handbrake adjusters inside the car by the handbrake. So, see, this is loose. So you see this is coming off without even having to tap it on the back side here. If it was stuck, I probably would have cheated a bit and tapped it with this hammer. You shouldn't use a hammer like this, you should use a soft hammer. But in this case I'm replacing these anyway, so I don't mind if I chip them, but normally that would be bad advice. I changed the pads earlier, but today I'm going to just upgrade the retainers and springs, because a new kit's just arrived, which I didn't have the other day. So you'll see the rusty springs and things coming out and the new ones going on. So here's a new brake drum, and here's the spring kit for the brake internals. So we'll play with that later. Yeah, they give you a little cake box. Put your cake in, take it off, and there's the drums. Because the next thing is to check it fits, because with Mexican Beetles everything's sort of supposed to fit, the standard Beetle, but you're never quite absolutely sure till you try it. Let's see, I think they'll fit. One thing with these, I should say, they come with a slightly greasy feel to them, like a waxy finish, presumably to stop them rusting. Obviously where the shoes are going to bind, you don't want that, so I've cleaned the inside rim here with brake cleaner and a cloth. You can get brake cleaner, it's like an aerosol spray. I think the old-fashioned way was to use petrol. Anyway, the main thing is you've got to get the grease off. I've opened up the little bag of bits to go with the brakes. So you've got these long springs, and then you've got these devices which hold the shoes back against the back plate. So these push in from behind through a hole, and then you put the spring on over the top, and then these are meant to, if I can show you, these go over this part like that, you can see, and then you turn them quarter turn and they lock, and these are the bits that rust, and so that slot there becomes a sort of mushy rusty hole, and they have a habit of popping straight off. If I just show you the ones that are on there now, which are the old ones, if you can see, don't know if you can see there, you see they're a bit of a mess, so we'll swap those over. The shoes have already been changed. At the end of it comes through from the back, through a hole in the backing plate, through a hole in the side of the brake shoe, and then points towards you. You then put the spring over it, and then you take this thing and you line it up like that, push it on against the spring and turn it half a turn, and it will lock in position. Okay, and you take it off the same way. Sometimes you need a pair of pliers to do that. The adjusters here I freed up and used some copper slip anti-seize compound on them. The brake shoes themselves are new, and then once we finish we'll put the new brake drum back on. Right, the next thing is a bit of maths. We need to do this thing up, this bolt, hang on, the castle nut on the end, using our magic tool, to about 270 foot-pounds, but it has a 9-to-1 force multiplication factor due to the way it's geared. So the question is, what do we set our torque wrench to? So 30 foot-pounds at the torque wrench will give you 270 at the castle nut. The general view seems to be do it up to 250 and then turn it as much more as you need to go to get the cotter pinhole to line up. So I'm going to do it up to just a tiny tad under 30 and then turn it as much as I need to get the cotter pin to line up. So you might ask, what is a torque wrench, or what is torque? It's a wrench, there you are, and I'm just going to demonstrate it on this wheel nut here, but the handle twists here, you see, if you can see, you can turn this to set the, and as it goes in you get a higher and higher foot-pounds rating, and then you lock it by twisting this at the end. And what happens is when you, hang on, hard to film with one hand, when you connect it up, when you push it, you'll feel it give at the set torque. So if I put some pressure on this, you feel that clunk there. That means at 30 foot-pounds it will do that clunking noise. So obviously the higher the foot-pound rating, the more you have to push on it. So that there's done up to 30 foot-pounds. But that, I was just using that to demonstrate. What I'm going to do now is put this on here, and due to our calculations, if I do this up to 30 foot-pounds, it will actually be around 250 here. So I don't know if you can see there, but that says foot-pounds and this is set to about 30. Be sure you're on the right side, because the other side is on Newton meters. So here I've tightened it just a little tiny bit more, and you can just about see, I don't know, maybe you can't. What if I put the light behind? There you are, the cotter pin hole lines up. Hooray! And we can test that, we can shove a screwdriver through it. There we are, goes all the way through. So that's pretty close to 270 foot-pounds, I would guess. I don't know if that's by design or by chance, but it's pretty much bang on. I had to actually torque it to about 31, 32 foot-pounds at the torque wrench end of this device. So all good to go. So we'll put the cotter pin in, then we'll put the wheel on, then we'll put the hubcap on, and then we'll do the other side. Before I put the wheel on, what about some rust proofing spray perhaps? You can see what our weather's like. The car is actually kept under cover, but even so the air can be damp. I use dinitrile. I'm not paid to be on YouTube, I'm not sponsored by them, but it's what a lot of the classic car magazines recommend. Wax oil, which is the most popular sort of high street one, actually in tests seems to perform one of the worst, if anything, of the ones out there. This stuff's not that cheap, so what I do is I don't buy the pump action spray type things, which always end up blocked up and you end up chucking them away once it dries out, because it's like a kind of wax once it's semi-dried. I buy these, go to a garden centre, pump action spray thing. They're literally 99p or about $1.50 each. Use it till it falls to pieces, then just chuck it away. So I've got another one over here, and that's what I use, and I liberally spray all under the wheel arches, all those bits that need wire brushing that you've seen earlier, all around the back end, and it's just a water repellent sort of rust inhibitor, and I just do it every year.